Hello, and welcome to this Getting Started guide for your Smart Panels 6000 series. When you first approach your panel, you'll notice on the left-hand side you have a control panel. Your top button on your control panel is your power button. You'll know that your panel has power because your lights will all be red when your board is turned off. When your board is turned on, those lights will then turn white. So my board is turned on, all my lights are white, and I'm getting power to my panel. I'm going to go ahead and bring us to our home screen. This will be your first view when you turn on your smart panel. You'll see that you'll have some favorites pinned, some apps that are preloaded on your panel. And we'll also notice that we have some circles on the bottom of our panel. Before we get started into looking into the apps that come preloaded, I'm going to first bring us to our settings gear. It's important when you first turn on your panel that you want to make sure that your panel is connected to the correct network. So that when I tap on that settings gear in the lower left-hand corner, to be able to double check my network, I'm going to tap on network settings and network. At the top, that's where I'll be able to see which network my panel is connected to, ensuring that I have the best connection and that I don't have too many firewall or any blockages if I'm accidentally on a student network. Our second setting to be able to take a look at is within our personalization with wallpaper. In wallpaper, smartboards come with some preloaded wallpapers that you can choose to further personalize your board, or you can also plug in a USB drive that has photos in it. On the left-hand side of your panel, that's where you're going to see your input to be able to plug in your USB flash drive. Now I'm going to go ahead and take us back home so that we can take a look at some of those startup apps to get using your board right away. To be able to navigate back home, we're going to go ahead and tap on the bottom center to be able to bring back our home page. Now on the right-hand side of my panel right here, I have some favorites that are pinned into my favorite zone. Our first app that we're going to take a look at is going to be Whiteboard. This is going to be a great app for you to start using your panel on day one. When you open up Whiteboard, that will create a brand new whiteboard lesson for you. When you first create a whiteboard lesson or when you add a new page at the bottom, that's where you're able to change your different backgrounds. If you're needing some lined paper or if you're working on some graphing paper, you'll be able to pull up those different backgrounds. I'm going to stick with my white background now. Now to be able to start writing on my board, I can go ahead and pick up my pen and start writing right on my whiteboard. Okay, now if I want to go ahead and erase that inking, you do have another tool in your toolbar, which is an eraser. You can go ahead, pick that up, and that will then erase any inking that I've done on my panel. Now, if I don't want to use that eraser tool, you can also use your palm. If you lay it flat on the board, or if you use the back of your fist to be able to erase any inking that you've done on your panel. On the left-hand side of your whiteboard lesson, you're going to see your toolbar. Your first tool is your pen. Go ahead and tap on your pen tool. You'll see you have 3 different pen styles. First one is to choose regular inking. You also have a highlighting tool and a text recognition tool. For each of these pens, you'll notice underneath I can change the thickness of my pen, and you can also choose the different color that you want your pen to appear. In the lower right-hand corner of my pen colors, that's where I can open up my color wheel to choose any variety of color that I would like to use in my lesson. Now with my handwriting recognition tool, what's great about this one is once I start writing and I stop writing, that tool will now recognize my text that I hand wrote out and will snap it into a typed text format. Our next tool down on our toolbar is our selector tool. This will allow me to select multiple objects on my whiteboard to be able to group them together, to be able to pin them onto my board, or to be able to select my text. Any object that I have selected, you'll notice that it is now highlighted in a blue frame, and in the upper right-hand corner, I have my drop-down menu to see my additional object properties. In additional videos, we'll go into further detail into how to best utilize these object properties, but know that for objects that you add to your whiteboard lesson, that's what that drop-down menu will provide you. Our next tool down on our toolbar is where we're able to add in additional media from the web. We can add in images or we can bring in videos. Our next tools down that we have available are our widgets library. These widgets are interactive components that we can add into our lesson. So we have a clock, a dice if I'm working on some probability with my students. Once I add in that dice, once I tap on it, it's then going to randomly roll, and then I have a number that pops up for my students to work with. Similar to our objects that we saw, whenever I tap just outside of my widget, that's going to give me my object properties. When I drop down, I can see I have some additional settings available for each of my widgets to further customize and utilize those widgets with my lesson. Now this page is getting a little crowded, so I would like to add a new page to my lesson. To be able to add new pages, we're going to go ahead and tap on the square plus in the lower left-hand corner. Now that square plus is going to pop out my different options that I have available, including adding a blank new page to my whiteboard lesson. Again, I have those background colors that are appearing, so I can change my background. But we also notice we have a library of ready-made resources ready to go to be able to add to my lesson. So I'm going to come back to that square plus, and I see I have ready-made resources available, graphic organizers, as well as manipulatives. So if I'm working with my students and we're talking through cause and effect, I'll do one tap, and now that adds that ready-made resource as an additional page into my lesson. Now in the lower left-hand corner, for me to be able to navigate to different pages in my lesson, I have an up arrow to go back to the beginning of my lesson, my down arrow to navigate further down, or I can tap on the number in between those up and down arrows to pop out my thumbnail view to be able to see all of my pages that I have available in my lesson. Okay, now that we've had a chance to take a small glance to look at our whiteboard app, we're going to come back home so that we can see how we can start using the browser app to access your most frequently used websites. The second app that we have available on our home screen is Browser. Go ahead and tap on Browser to bring up a mobile browser. At the top, you can go ahead and tap on that plus sign to add a new tab onto your browser and go ahead and start typing in your search. And for this lesson, we're going to navigate to News ELA. When I pull up any website, I am able to grab my pen, pick my pen up, and start writing right over the top of any website. What's going to happen is my page is going to freeze, and I have an overlay that will allow me or my students to come up to the panel and go ahead and start annotating right over the top. Now with these annotations, once I'm done, and I want to save them, in the upper right-hand corner, you can tap on this green X, and you can either cancel that X, you can discard your annotations, or you can save them to your files library, which will be saved directly on your panel. Now I'm going to go ahead and come back home so that I can see, as I've been working on my panel, I have additional pieces that have now populated in my recent zone. Those most recently visited applications or websites are going to pre-populate right here in your recent zone, making it a lot easier to navigate back and forth between different applications. I hope you have fun getting started. Please feel free to reach out to our team if you have any additional questions. You can reach us at pd@bloom.com.